Good evening, everybody. It's the Cryptid Huntress. I'm Jessica Jones. Welcome in to this beautiful Thursday night. We usually do cover a remote viewing target on Thursday nights here on the channel. But this week, sometimes I switch things up, y'all. And this week, we're going to not have a remote viewing target because I covered an RV target with Barry this week on that lake monster. Okay, over on his channel. It's in my Patreon. I always want to have a remote viewing target for my Patreon members. All the data and all the information for that target is over there in my Patreon. So y'all go check that one out. And tonight we have Nick Sylvester here with us. I know Nick usually comes on my daytime shows, but I've got him here tonight with us. And there's so many things for us to discuss tonight, including, we had a fantastic show yesterday with the Honorable MK Davis. And of course, Barry Littleton came over and co-hosted that show with me. And we got into the meat and potatoes of the Patterson Gimlin film. And he made a really good argument for Patty being an actual Sasquatch. Okay, so if you guys missed that, please go back and check that out. I know that there is a ruckus going on within the Bigfoot community as if we needed any more ruckuses. Okay, any more divide? We got a deep one. This one cuts real deep for a lot of people. See, there's apparently a documentary coming out. Long story short, they're saying that's a man in a suit, and they've got the receipts. Well, I don't know. MK's got the receipts too, and so we'll wait and see. We'll see what happens, y'all. But nonetheless, Bigfoot is real, and that's why I'm here. I am the Cryptid Huntress. I'd tell you if it wasn't. Okay, I promise. I cannot tell a lie. All right. So, but anyways, this is going to be a great show tonight. We're going to get into the great cover up of the cryptids and who's behind the cover up. Why this covered up. We're also going to get into some of these meteors that have been falling around the United States and all around the world. And we're going to go full disclosure tonight with Nick Sylvester. It's going to be freaking awesome. We're even going to talk Dogman tonight. We're going to get into Bigfoot. I've been doing a lot of cryptid field research and investigations and just hanging out in the woods lately. And we'll talk about that too tonight. Okay, so y'all get ready. Buckle up, buttercups. We've got a fun night ahead of us. So I want to thank my moderators for being here. And oh, by the way, I do have an event. I am hosting it's becoming a very big event, actually. The West Georgia Bigfoot Town Hall. And this is my original flyer. I was only expecting to have some people there to maybe show up and talk about their Bigfoot experiences over in West Georgia where I live. And then suddenly everybody was excited about it, and I'm getting a huge response out of this. And so Dale Boswell made this flyer for me this week. Thank you, Dale Boswell. You're the best. He's going to be presenting on his encounters in this area in East Alabama, West Georgia area. And if any of you guys have had a Bigfoot, Dogman, or any kind of a weird creature encounter, something you can't explain, even UFO sightings, portals, you name it, come and meet us there. It's going to be at McIntosh Reserve Park, which is a beautiful place over in West Georgia. It's in Whitesburg, Georgia. We're going to do that on April the 25th. It'll be an all-day event. And Auntie Erin, who's usually in the chat, I forgot to write you back. She sent me a message asking about the times. We usually start our events around 10. It's a Saturday. We don't want to get up butt crack at dawn, y'all. But around 10 o'clock in the morning, Eastern time, y'all. And so we'll probably do it, and it'll be an all-day event. I think we said 10 to 6. So it's going to be like an all-day event. So y'all come out, family friendly. We're going to have a lot of fun over there. And I want to hear about your encounters. All right. So, but come do that. Come see us. And you can get more information for that over on my website. It's thecryptidhuntress.com. And there's a link, GeorgiaBigfootTownHall.com, where you can get the tickets. Everyone 18 and under gets in free. And you buy a ticket for adults, 18 and up. Okay. So anyways, y'all come see me at that. Also, like I said, if you want to get that data for my remote viewing target that I did with Barry, it's on the lake monster out of Turkey. Go over to my Patreon, thecryptidhuntress.com on Patreon. And yeah, y'all, thank you so much for all your support. Okay. Thank you to all my members. Okay, let's get to our show tonight. All right. So tonight we have Nick Sylvester here in the studio. We're going to be discussing the uptick in Bigfoot and Dogman sightings, and we're going to explore the great cryptid cover up and who is behind it. We're also going to look maybe even into government land grabs and all that kind of stuff. We'll just see where this conversation goes tonight. Also, there's been a really huge string of meteors, fireball meteors, crashing around the United States and around the world. And Nick always has the inside on good dogman information and galactic stuff that's going on in this outer space too. And so yeah, let's see. This is how I usually introduce Nick, y'all. He's a leader in the truther community, and especially is discussing the cosmic, spiritual, and the nature of reality, bridging the known with the unknown. You probably recognize him from TV, y'all. You definitely will recognize him from being on my show. Please help me welcome to the show, Mr. Nick Sylvester. Hey, Nick.
There we are. Hey, Jess. Thanks for the very kind words. I always appreciate it.
Well, I'm just so happy to see you. Thank you for joining me tonight.
I know I think it's been a little bit too long. A few weeks have passed that shouldn't have, and we need to stay in better contact on these things because, like I told you backstage, I really enjoy. I mean, this is what I do to enjoy. A lot of the other subject matter and podcasts are a little more stressful, with the geopolitical and the wars and all of the bad things that have happened to humanity over the generations. This is much more something I just do for personal enjoyment. So I appreciate being asked on.
Well, good. Listen, I know we have fun. We always crack some jokes. And yes, that other stuff will give you gray hair and wrinkles, man. And so actually this is giving me gray hair. I'll be honest with you. I don't know. And I'm having a lot of fun. So
yeah,
it may not
they're
be
coming for sure.
Yeah, man. No, it's wild. No, so you got to come over here and have some fun with me. Okay. Even though I said I'm getting gray hair myself. Okay. And you don't even have gray hair, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, I do.
No.
Yeah. It's most of it's hiding over back there and back here. And yeah, it is.
Look at mine.
I hide it pretty well. But anyway, yeah, so lots of stuff to talk about, lots of good stuff. I don't even know where to start. I do find it very interesting that after all these years that the Patterson Gimlin film, just after all these years, just magically, we have entities, we have groups that are wanting to debunk that. Why would that be, Jess? Yes. Why is that happening?
Well, according to MK Davis, who is on the show today, shout out to MK. He's the man, dude. He's been researching that film scrupulously for 20 years at least. And he came on. He said that it happens like every 7 years or so. I don't know. He actually had a finite number to it. He was like every 7 years or so. And it's almost like, I've noticed that there are things that happen. I know this is between us, Nick, and the whole world, actually. I've noticed that there's almost like ritualistic coincidences or not coincidences to a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to attacks. Like when I've been under attack before, and I've noticed like the people that attack me, they attack this different people at the exact same times of years. It's almost like a ritual to me, I'm seeing and stuff. So I don't know. I'm looking too deep into it, or I'm connecting dots that normal people don't connect, or I don't know what it is. It's weird though.
Yeah. Well, it's when certain truths gain traction in the community, the opposing forces push back. It's just sort of like stretching a rubber band. If you stretch it too far, it's eventually got to push back the other way. I have a different sort of outlook on this kind of thing, whether or not they pretend that the film is fake or not fake. Honestly, it doesn't really matter from my perspective. Everybody on here is not just curious if Bigfoot is real. I mean, it's an absolute fact. All of the groups that I work with, most of them cosmic historians, groups that have contact and communication with different races of extraterrestrial, since the beginning of time, including, ancient books, scriptures, the law of one, things that are very respected in the community. And there's not a single solitary entity or off-world civilization, to my knowledge, at least ones that I'm aware of, that don't fully know that Bigfoot is simply a being that lives on this planet along with us. One of many, though, one of many that share this planet with us. But all of these beings are being hidden from us. And like we said backstage, virtually every organized entity, every organization is not in favor of the truth about anything coming out, anywhere from governments to the medical industry, to the scientific industry, to the education industry, to the intelligence industries, forestry services, mining services. You can go on and on and on. And if the truth about UFOs, ETs, Bigfoot, if those truths come out, all of those industries will be harmed, because their business is lying to us. Their business is keeping us dumbed down so they can continue to fool us and take advantage of our ignorance. Well, I shouldn't say ours, the general public's ignorance. And they can continue to monopolize on that situation. So, of course, we're going to be continued to be attacked in those ways. And understand something. One of the most powerful things that these groups, led by the three-letter agencies, the intelligence agencies, when they got involved in the 40s, they taught people, we'll just say people, the science community, the religious community, so on and so forth. They taught people how to debunk these types of things. And the number one thing is they taught everybody, demand proof. Proof. And when you're still dealing with people, I'm sure some of you out there have friends that don't believe in, Bigfoot or Dogman or ETs or whatever, and that show me proof. Those are still the people who are thinking in the obsolete way, back, in 3D kind of way of proof. And here's the deal. The CIA and other agencies taught people to demand proof because they are in complete control of all the proof. Okay? The narrative they want to push, they create the proof. The narrative they want to suppress, they hide the proof. Okay? So there is no proof that's out there and exists that counteracts their narrative of ignorance, control, depopulation agenda. Okay, so that's the problem with what we have going. If you go out and you find indisputable proof and get a Bigfoot, they will take it from you. Okay, and it could be worse than that. And that's what's been happening for generations and generations and generations. The government, the Smithsonian, the Vatican, and many other groups have hundreds, if not thousands, of bodies and indisputable evidence of all of these cryptids that we follow. It is not a big mystery. So that is sort of the problem we have in regards to the controlled nature of the proof.
Oh yeah. Oh man, that packs a punch, what you just said right there. And oh my gosh, I was so not going to bring this up, Nick. I don't know what made me think of this, because I was recently brought up on someone's channel. It's got a big channel, and the gentleman was saying, I guess he was reading a letter that somebody sent about my remote viewing of the missing people in the national parks and stuff. And he got very emotional about it. Kind of got upset and was like, "Where's the proof? Show me the proof." And he kept saying that. And as you're saying this, I'm like, well, that sounds familiar. That sounds familiar, even though I have proof of my data.
That's their go-to.
but I'm not like, just remote viewing is like data. This is like supplemental information for something. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sitting here saying this is what happened and I have, this is my data. That's all I have. It's just some data to try to help out here. And but anyways, it was proof, and that's he kept repeating that proof, and that's interesting that you just said that.
Well, it's very important that everyone out there knows that. It's very, very important because it's a subject matter that they know can't be argued because they taught society through pseudoscience to demand proof because they know that the proof you need to break the narrative cannot be provided. I've dealt a great deal with that for years and years, following rabbit holes in regards to Dogman and learning the vastness of the network of operations that are out there strictly to keep these things secret. Okay. Mm-hmm. It goes directly from the Parks and Recreation, the forest rangers, anything that even smells unusual. It goes immediately to the DNR, the Department of Natural Resources. The DNR looks into it, and they all have, I think they have a speed dial on their phones. They immediately go to a couple of different black ops branches of the $3 agency out of Langley. Anything that's Bigfoot, Dogman, or any other cryptid related, and they are out there within minutes. They have offices everywhere. There are agencies in this country, dozens of agencies that nobody knows about that deal strictly in this matter. It is the most important thing that these groups do. It's all they do. They bury evidence, they get rid of bodies, because believe me, these beings do die. And sometimes they die in plain sight. They're out there with their vans, their helicopters, their big bag nets, and they swoop them up, off they go. And it's just the way it is. It isn't the way most people that look into Bigfoot kind of think it is. Like, gosh darn it, if I could be so lucky as to find, look, it doesn't matter. There's been thousands of people that have been that lucky to have found indisputable proof, but they weren't able to talk about it.
Well, okay, so this is going to blow the lid right off of some even these things we're talking about tonight. Next Thursday, I have my good buddy Jimmy Payne coming back on the show. Y'all will remember Jimmy. He's been on the show. He used to be good friends also with James Rink, Super Soldier Talk, and he's coming on. He actually had me sit down with him to watch another Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's what we did our show on it last time that he came on. He claims to be, and I believe him. I've known Jimmy a long time. He claims to be a former MIB. Okay, well, he's got some very good information, and what he talked about, he gave us the history of what really happened in Texas, that some of these movies are actually based off of, and they do involve real life events, he says. And so next Thursday, we're actually going to be covering some of these cattle mutilations out in Texas, and the connection to, he says, Leatherface. He actually showed me where Leatherface is buried and all this kind of stuff. Like, we're going to go there, but what? Okay, so the Texas Chainsaw Massacre thing is like catchy, right? It's like everybody's gonna be interested because of that. But when you get down to it, we did a deep dive together this week, he and I, by ourselves online, of like the LBJ Ranch out in Texas. He gave a lot of inside information, and maybe this is all for entertainment purposes only, y'all. But they got into, Linda Moulton Howe actually, researching these cattle mutilations, and we're going to be giving some inside scoop on what some factions had planned for her, actually, according to what he says. And I'm assuming, I'm not going to get into it tonight, okay, because I don't want to give it all away. But let's just say things are disposed of, and evidence is getting rid of and disappears off the face of the earth. And that includes ET related stuff, cryptid related stuff, all that. And Jimmy's got, I'm not going to say he's got the answers to what's going on or what's happened in the past, but we've got some dots to connect next week, Nick. And it's really interesting. So But anyways, the rabbit hole is deep, and public officials are involved. Okay, and I worked in state government for 20 years. Okay, but I was not on any kind of level to have any kind of clearance. Okay, I worked at an agency for women. All right, I know we're from Venus. I know, right? Men are from Mars, women from Venus. Anyways, that's a bad joke. But anyways, when I asked MK yesterday, I said, why? Because I know that there's an information flow that's like regulated, I think, for cryptid exposure, right? I mean, that's what you just said. And so they can turn the faucet on and they can cut the faucet off for the information flow. And I asked him, I was like, hey, why do you suppose they allowed that film to get out to the public? Of course, it was blurrier than the original film was. And, but why did they let that film get out? And he said, well, actually, there was a gentleman named Lyle Laverty, okay, this is what MK said. He said that he was 19 years old. He worked for the lumber company. He was like a timber rider or something. I forgot what he called it. But he said that he was there at the site. He actually took a picture of one of the footprints that had a mid-tarsal break or something in the foot. And he was like, he said he ended up being, I think he said he was a deputy or deputy secretary, potentially, of the Department of the Interior. I think he said it was under George Bush. Okay, now this is a fella who has been pinpointed to be at Bluff Creek, taking pictures of Bigfoot footprints, who you can trace this man. My mom actually did some digging today, Nick. She was like, I think he's passed away now, because she saw his obituary and read about it. But these are people who are in high-ranking federal government positions who have been placed at the, dare I say, crime scene? Okay. This is for entertainment purposes only, y'all. All right. But Nick, when we say that this rabbit hole is pretty deep, it is. But also the cover-up is really deep.
Well, look, I mean, I can tell you why some of that stuff happens, why certain films, certain videos, certain pieces of information, over time, when populations, depending on when at time this is going on, when information starts saturating populations, a lot of people, there's a lot of sightings, there's a lot of people talking, the powers that be will allow certain films out, or they'll create certain films in order to debunk them later, to assist and to quell the regular people jumping on the bandwagon and saying, oh my God, they are real. And what happens is there'll be some sort of debunk. Okay, this video's a hoax. It's all nonsense. And that all of a sudden reduces the level of consciousness in regards to, a certain issue, be it a UFO or a Bigfoot or whatever you're dealing with. And a lot of times, if the powers that be, the controllers, the cabal, don't do that, they can lose control of a subject and things can get out of hand. And that's what's going on today. That's what goes on in the past. And that's what's going on with the UFO disclosure, as well as Bigfoot. They are a lot of controlled opposition. So what they do is they see a pattern and they try to get ahead of it. They try to put landmines ahead of the pattern and start putting people out to debunk certain things or to debunk certain people. Or if that doesn't work, like what's happening right now with the ET disclosure, what they'll decide to do, the cabal, the governments, they will make a grand announcement of some nonsensical little tidbit like, okay, you know what? Yes, there are ETs. They do exist. We kind of know about them, but we don't really understand them. We don't know what they're all about. They're interdimensional and, they don't really affect anything. So everybody don't worry about it. We got it under control. That's what they want to do. You understand?
Yes.
And then there's other narratives that'll go further, like the ET alien invasion, where all ETs are bad, scary, and they want to hurt you. So we're going to put a bunch of laws into place to protect everybody, and then they'll take more of our freedoms. Okay.
Yeah.
There's that narrative that's going on, as well as the opposite narrative where they try to make the ET a savior. So you'll give away your power, almost like a second coming of Christ. You know, yes, they're out there, they're helping us, they're angelics, you know, everything's going to be great. You don't have to lift a finger, just put all your faith in the whoever. And that's another angle that the cabal is considering, because people won't let this go. There's a consciousness that's rising. The Great Awakening is happening, and people no longer want to be told to shut up. So all of these things are happening throughout the entire community, including cryptids.
Yeah. Oh man. And you know, and my issue right now is AI, right? AI is a monster of its own. I love AI because I get to make these cool thumbnails for my shows and my little art for my promos and stuff. But AI is the bane of my existence as well, because we can't really tell what's real and what's not anymore. And I just have to assume at this point, a lot of the videos I'm seeing are fake of Bigfoot and cryptids and stuff. And it's like, there's this weird mix of like, we don't know what's what anymore. Okay. I know I have my own personal experiences, and I know those are real. At least I hope they are. Okay. But it's just wild. I mean, we just live in such a strange universe right now.
Well, AI has been around for a very, very long time. It just hasn't been given to the regular humans. You know, the AI that we're seeing now is pretty much obsolete in what the powers that be, the governments, the intelligence agencies, the cabal has been using since, at least since the 80s. You know, the internet, artificial intelligence, that is not Earth created tech by any means. You know, there is extremely advanced AI that's being used off planet in the groups that are working with us and working against us, because there are both. It's a very, very, very complex soup up there, especially now based on what's going on. I mean, I could go into vast detail on all the stuff that's going on, but maybe that'll be a different show. We could just kind of take little bits and pieces. I wanted to sort of talk, Jess, a little bit. You know, let's go back to Bigfoot. Let's keep it simple. And
let's do that.
You know, let's talk a little bit about what Bigfoot probably is and how he probably lives and all of that good stuff. You know, I'm gonna play a little clip of Patty right quick while you're talking. I've always thought that was probably real, but I didn't care, because I absolutely knew as a kid, and still do, that it's a being that has been living here for a very long time. The Sasquatch genome is one similar to human. There are several different types, just like there are several different types of human. There's black, there's white, there's yellow, there's red, there's, you know,
green. I'm just kidding.
They are a subterranean species. This I know for an absolute fact. Subterranean meaning the Earth is a vast network of underground caverns and tunnels. It is, if you were to split it in half like an orange, it would be like a piece of Swiss cheese. There are millions of small caverns. There are thousands of very large caverns. Many of these caverns in the upper inner Earth, meaning not all that far down, you know, in a matter of maybe say 100 miles. Some of these caverns are as large as countries, okay? As large United States, like Colorado or similar.
Wow.
All right, there are civilizations, there are cities down there. But in the very, very, very top portions are the smaller caverns that Bigfoot dwell in the majority of the time. maybe 70, 80, 90% of their lives are spent underground in shallow tunnel systems, passageways, caverns, things of that nature. They typically always will den there. It's almost never, from what I understand, through many different sources, some being off-world, that Bigfoot lives above, on the surface. They come up, they do business, they hunt, they get, but even underground, I mean, there's water sources they use down there. So all of their dead, if they can help it, are taken underground. They utilize a number of artificial passageways. Like, I'll give you an example. In the terrain that they normally roam in, there are cave entrances, but typically they don't use them because humans can see them. So they use hidden passages, trapdoors. From what I understand, some of them, they'll have like an enormous, say, fallen tree or a huge boulder covering the entrance to a den or a passageway that a human could never move, never. And they would never think something's under it. But the Bigfoot being so big and strong, they simply lift it up and they go, down it goes. And that is a frequent method that they use for eluding people. In the topic of interdimensionality, that's something that's definitely exopolitics kind of stuff. And, a person has to understand how portals in interdimensionality actually work to make sense out of it. And, it would be probably not extremely correct to say Bigfoot uses portals. Okay. A portal is an energy anomaly that alters. Where did I get? Are we still on? I can't hear you anymore.
Oh yeah, sorry. I muted myself while you were talking.
Oh
yes, I was actually. I'm sorry, Nick. No, I was pulling this up while you're talking because I was gonna after you brought up portals, and is this Russ Coulthard? Is that this guy's name? He is an investigative journalist. He does a lot of UFO disclosure, and he came out talking about a portal. It just this ties into what you're talking about. I want you to finish what your thoughts, and then we'll listen to this video with Ross Coulthard in just a second, because it does have to do with portals in the woods. He said that he's actually been to a portal that the U.S. Forest Service is hiding and guarding.
Well, maybe he has. See, portals are, like I was saying, they actually can alter the frequency of an object, meaning how that object vibrates, whether or not it gets really complex, but it's similar to how starships use hyperdrive or warp drive, as some people still call it. It changes the frequency and the gravitational energy of an object, of matter. And it can alter its location both in time and in space, or either or, okay? There are natural portals that are caused by energy nodes within the ley lines, within certain places on the globe, that have a very high electromagnetic frequency that can cause an actual natural portal. They could stay open for minutes. They could stay open for a very long time, depending on the fluctuation of this energy at any given point on the planet. Now created or artificial portals, they work the same way, but we make them. Stargates are also portals. They're ancient artificial portals that were used by ancient aliens or ancient astronauts, aliens that used to live here. Anyway, so imagine a portal. A portal is a one-way thing, unless somebody created a portal on the other side of where this portal takes you. And that is what the cabal does. they create an artificial portal which has a frequency map caused by the energy, the electromagnetic energy within this portal. And this electromagnetic frequency has a mathematic and geometric address. It will take you, or whatever goes through it, to an exact place in space and time that matches the frequency that this portal is creating. Okay? And natural ones work the same way as artificial ones, only natural ones take you somewhere and you stay there.
And
that's why Bigfoot, right? That's why Bigfoot doesn't utilize portals as people think. Although some of the Sasquatch have a natural vibration. Everybody's heard of raise your frequency, raise your vibration. They have a natural spiritual vibration that allows them to phase in and out of our visible, detectable senses. Not all of them do, and not all of them can at all times, but it is possible, and we know that they're capable at times of doing this, where they're literally almost phase out like an apparition, like a ghost would, that exists in the astral, that exists in the non-physical portion of reality. Okay. And it's very complicated, and there's a lot of other factors that are involved. But I just wanted to sort of touch base a little bit on how some of that works.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. You know, my team has actually documented a portal. Actually, David Pardue's in the chat. What's up, David Pardue? He was there that night that the portal, he's the one that spotted what we call the portal. He calls it an apparition. Okay. But some of the other team believe it was a portal. And some of our teammates were sent over to it. And their heat signatures disappeared. It became known as the portal incident. Let's listen to what this guy has to say. He claims, this is Russ Coulthard. He claims to have actually seen a portal. Okay, let's see if we can hear this.
I've just been somewhere in the United States where I know there is another portal, and I know the United States knows about it. And I was there just the other day. And guess what? It's got a big fence around it, lots of security signs. It's supposedly US Forest Service. But you know what? It's not. And it's supposedly ancient ruins of tribal art. And you know what? It's not. What's happening is that the United States is using the US Forest Service and claims of the protection of archaeological relics to keep secret from the public a portal on US soil. There, Megan.
Oh my gosh. All right. We'll stop that there. What do you think about that, Nick? I wanted your opinion on that.
Well, of course. I mean, that's kind of thing has been going on for hundreds of years, if not more. One of the main reasons we're dealing with this Iran war is due to the Stargate 10. There's an ancient Stargate that's operational, that's been located underneath I forget which city, underneath the city in Iran for a great number of years. And this portal this Stargate, I should say, very similar but different. This Stargate has been utilized by the cabal to allow in certain, let's say, lower fourth density, lower astral entities, demonics, for different nefarious purposes for a large number of years. So that is a good portion of what's been going on in Iraq, as well as some other things regarding giants and other interesting off-world pieces of equipment that may or may not be down there. So that's part of what's going on.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, I just saw how interesting that is to be mainstream talking about that. And I thought, man, so now this is the direction that the information is leaking out slowly, because I mean, I'm full disclosure over here. I talk about just about anything I can and everything I can when it comes to my research and my personal research out in the field, and our team's research as well. And so, I mean, I remember when I was on White House UFO, okay, a long time ago, with Grant Cameron. I remember Grant was really interested in the portal incident that my team had encountered, and that was probably 4 years ago. I was on his show. That was a long time ago. Nobody was talking about portals back then, Nick. I mean, not like that, like coming across portals. Now it's so, like I said, mainstream. Everybody's talking about interdimensional beings, and I guess it's with the advent, the what do you call it? I guess it's everybody knows about CERN now. And CERN, they talk about how creatures are coming and going out of CERN, like portals are opening and stuff. And
well, the CERN is a portal. CERN, by definition, is an artificial portal. And what an artificial portal needs is an extraordinary amount of energy, electromagnetic energy, in order to create this portal, to alter, because like I said, you're actually altering the frequency of matter, whatever goes through it. And, it's a very, very advanced and complex thing. It is, for instance, it is the way of choice that highly technical, highly, let's say fifth density ET groups, many of the Pleiadian groups out of the M45 star cluster, the Tagetans, the Antarians. There's a number of groups that use this technology, and what happens is, like in Star Trek, they don't really explain what they're doing. All right, they have warp. Warp comes from Albert Einstein's theory that the space-time is warped by a massive gravitational force, but it isn't. Space-time doesn't warp. Space itself is a very high frequency substance that is similar to water, actually. And that is the reason the Bible talks about the water above and the water below, because space is not a vacuum. It is a very high frequency substance that has density. And you can, a scientist could use the laws of hydrodynamics to work with space, believe it or not. It's not a vacuum. But anyway, back to the time traveling and how ships travel in space, great distances, because with the proper technology, distance is similar to time, where it's a construct. Distance is not traveled through, okay? What these highly advanced civilizations do, in time, they create what's called the gravity mass energy maps and frequency maps. Every place, every point in time in space has a specific frequency that's based on a lot of things, but mainly how objects within that area interact with one another, their density and things of that sort, the gravitational force that acts upon them. It's complex, and I'm not an astrophysicist, so I'm not going to try to explain exactly how it works. But imagine, like we have a map, a two-dimensional map, and we want to go from here to here. Well, what they do is they're able to choose to go from here to here, and they get to choose when. They get to choose where and when in space-time. So every point in time in space has a mathematical frequency unique to itself. So with the power of their electromagnetic plasma engines, they're able to create a toroidal field around the ship itself that envelops the entire ship. And as it's doing that, it changes the frequency of the molecules of the ship and everything in the ship. And at that time, it ceases to exist in the frequency it starts in, and it begins to exist in the frequency it was changed to. Do you understand? So it can go from Mars to a planet, in another part of the galaxy almost instantaneously. There are other things that are involved depending on the size of the ship, and depending on the energy source of the engines of the ship. But that's basically how it can work. And they can choose places in the past as well. And it's a very common thing in the highly technical, advanced civilizations that our groups work with, our secret space programs, our breakaway societies. They're very well aware of this. And they're able to utilize some of this technology for flying around where they want to go. So it is all real stuff.
And that dare I say, our governments have gotten hold of all of this technology, of course, right? And we hear testimony from like Andrew Basiago, right, who claims to have been part of Project Pegasus, and these are time traveling programs, and they were sending children back in time. And it's like, well, how does that even work? Well, I think you just explained it. I mean, you're talking about ships, but we're also sending people, bodies, right, back into time, and maybe that's how some of this time traveling works.
It does.
Yeah.
It's all through it's all through a form of portal technology. And in ships, different races have different levels of technology. Some of the higher technology simply use frequency maps, and they just say, all right, we want to go, and the ship will literally turn the ship, the frequency from one to another, and they appear somewhere else. They don't travel through space. But some of the lower tech uses time bubbles. This gentleman here that you just had up, what was his name? Jose. You just took it down.
Jose, I just took it down. Let's see.
It's okay.
I'm looking.
But they're able to use something similar to what's called a bismuth solenoid, where the front of their ship can produce a time bubble, and the ship can travel through this time bubble. And as it travels, another one is produced over and over and over through this bubble, where basically they're traveling through time and space through these bubbles that the ship produces through this special solenoid. And that's less high tech than the frequency maps, but it enables you to travel great distances.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I've had multiple people on my shows that say that they've been part of the secret space programs, and I've done some remote viewing for a lot of these people. Okay. And or I've done a lot of remote viewing for a few of these people. Let's put it that way. And and that does involve time travel programs that they claim they've been in. And
sure.
Yeah. So I mean, it's real. I know that we have the capabilities of doing that. But it's not shown to the public. This is like undercover stuff. It's all classified documents and classified information, classified black projects and stuff that we're not privy to at all. We're not supposed to know about these things. And
yes, like that is correct.
The Dogmen.
But as we learn, and as some of us, we disseminate as much as we're able to disseminate, these types of things begin to enter collective consciousness. They begin to seep through osmosis, like the 100 monkey effect, into humanity. And the understanding and the norms of these type of things will slowly become more and more acceptable. And we're seeing it happen. They are not able to keep a lid on this. And they knew they weren't years and years ago. The bad guys aren't stupid. The bad guys were very well aware that the Great Awakening was going to take place. And they have been doing things to try to mitigate this awakening, slow it down, try to limit it as best as possible. And we simply can't allow that to happen, okay? Because what they're trying to do is, before any of us knew that we were awakening, I mean, we're talking about, 2012, the bad guys knew this was going to happen. And they put systems in place back then to try to catch and mitigate the damage. So imagine and I want people to know this, because there's a lot of paid opposition out there, you guys. Almost everyone you see, almost everyone that's got a big channel, a big name, anyone who it just kind of magically seems like, well, gosh, the mainstream media, they don't care that, people, groups like MUFON, groups like, like
getting shadow banned, like the rest
the
of
ones that have huge followings, the ones that are famous. Those are sanctioned, approved groups by the cabal to give you a little information, but make you sort of go this way or go that way, or not know all of the important truths. Okay. Just understand that most of the people out there that aren't small, like me or Jessica, will have an agenda. They will want to lead you somewhere. So, now I forgot exactly where I was going with what I was saying.
I don't know. We were talking about the time travel stuff, of course, but it was the Great Awakening was being slowed down. Okay.
Okay. Here's the quick point. Okay. So like I said, they got ahead of the game. They saw a big tidal wave coming and they put up a barrier. They saw a big fire coming and they set up a burn line. Or I forgot what those things are called, where they burn plates, Anyway, so imagine that humanity is we're in a pen, we're in a corral, okay? We're a bunch of sheep. We don't know any truths. We're in a corral. The cabal is happy, the governments are happy, but they see that the sheep are breaking a piece of that corral. It's going to break, it's going to open, and the sheep are going to. So what did they do? They build a larger corral right outside where it's going to break. So when the sheep break out, they think they're free, but in reality, they're just in a bigger pen that the government can still control. And they're happy because they're out of that old bad corral and now they're in a bigger one, and it seems like freedom, but it isn't freedom. Be careful of that, because that will be continued to be offered to us. Well, what if we give you this and this disclosure, and we admit that this is true? Will that be enough for you? Will you back off? The answer is no. We want all of the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do. But it seems as though when things are, the ball's rolling and everything's really good and the disclosure is just flowing and we're having a good time doing it, something comes crashing in, like this new documentary that's coming out on Patty, and it's fake now, and stuff like that. I'm not saying those people have anything to do with this. The people who created this, I have not seen the documentary. I don't know anything about it. I'm just using that as an example. It's divided everyone. Everybody's fighting now. Now nobody's looking over here. They're looking over here now, at all this, and still trying to spin our wheels. It's always spinning the wheels all the time, spinning the wheels. And someone will be sent in to make us spin our wheels again, over and over again. And, you got to, at some point, it's kind of like, that's why I brought MK on the show, because he's done so much research on that video. And he's like, look, I don't want to be famous. I don't look for, he gets a lot of negative attention over doing this kind of stuff. And a lot of us do. I happen to have a wonderful group of people around me, and wonderful viewers and wonderful supporters. So I'm not getting those attacks like I used to. I say that, and now tomorrow you watch. Okay. but there's always going to be people. I call them plants. We have a lot of plants in the cryptid community.
You would be amazed at what they really are. How do I, because I don't want your people to think I'm absolutely out of my mind. But there's a great deal that's going on, that even awake people have no concept of. It's similar to the human clone situation, where there are things on this earth, you guys, that aren't like you and me. There are people that aren't like you and me. And I'm sure many of you have heard of the NPC arguments. Yes. Well, there are things similar to that are organic portals. And many of the organic portals, meaning humans without an active I'm not going to say without a soul right now. I don't want to do that. Without an active soul, without a connection to source, without a connection to things that are higher, things that are of a higher frequency than us. And these organic portals, their job is to keep everyone in the matrix. That their job is to keep the matrix in a 3D realm and keep it the way it is. It is important for them to find the people that are getting out of the box and pull them back in the box. And it works that way by design. Yeah. There are many people out there that their job is to do just that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's even infiltrators. People will be your best friend. You realize, man, wait, that's not a good friend. That's an infiltrator in a plant. That's why I don't really have a whole lot of friends, Nick. Okay. I really don't. I got a lot of
I remember years ago, Jess, when you first started talking about Dogman, you had all of those people that wanted to be the only one with the information. Remember that?
It's still the same. Nothing changed.
Is it still the same now? Oh my God.
I guess. I don't know. I don't really run in those circles much. Okay. I've built my own community over here. And we talk Dogmen. Listen, I got my own Dogman community right here at the Cryptid Huntress channel. And it's there's a lot of ego involved in the online communities and stuff. Let's just say that. I'm gonna leave it right there.
You know what? We can't progress if it continues. I just hope they understand. I hope they understand that there's a certain level of progression that we can do with this destructive ego. This, I'm better than you. I know more than you. We can't move forward. We cannot beat the cabal if we continue to need to beat our chest and be the coolest guy on the street. It can only go so far. It can only take us so far. Yeah. And, that's just one person's opinion, but I hope we get past it.
Well, Nick, I've recently, met up with some in person. This is in person, not just online, with some people who, the communities are always divided when it comes to the disclosure of cryptids. Okay. Things get really divided because I think there are some disruptors that are kind of sprinkled in around. And I like to look at myself as a disruptor to the matrix. Okay.
Why do you think that is, Jess?
What I am.
Why do you think it is?
Well, because whenever we get together, we've online, it's like we're all pitted against each other. And then we get together in person, we're all like best friends. It's wonderful. It's like, wait a second. There's something fishy going on here. Okay. Huh. And it can't be traced back to who started it. So we know, that kind of stuff. You can kind of pinpoint who's who when you take time to map things out, but it's because, well, look, take me for instance. Okay. I'm going to make an example of myself tonight. Okay. I am I'm a female, duh. Okay, you can see I'm a woman over here.
I think we all knew that, Jeff. We already knew that. Give us something else.
I'm just kidding. Okay, but no, I'm just saying, like, I never use that. I never use that to be like, oh, I'm a woman and that's why this happens, or that's why I worked for a women's organization for 20 years. I've been there, done that. Okay, but I come onto the scene and I've got some. I'm not going to say fresh information, but I just started. I didn't want to have a podcast. I never knew what a podcast was. I was offered a podcast when I went on my friend Apollo's show. I was like, yeah, I'll try it. And I had a producer and everything. He was really nice. It snowballed into where I am today, right? Speaking publicly about Bigfoot and Dogman and my research, stuff that I never thought I'd ever do. But there was a reason. There's the old way of doing things. And then I came in like a bull in the china shop, talking about the way I do things. Okay. And I don't really care what people think about what I do or what I say. And I hate to say that, but there is a reason to keep things the old way. Do you know what I mean? And like, there's some of us that are remote viewers and psychics, and we're actually kind of including new ways of doing things into the research that other people weren't doing. And so I got kind of squashed down a little bit. Yeah. People were squashing me down because of it. They still do. And that's okay. Cause somebody, I'm just being me. And, but I think it is, I think it's because it's moving the conversation forward. It's moving the research forward, doing things that are outside of the box. Does that make sense? There's a reason to.
It makes complete sense. Absolute complete sense. And just like we said earlier, I mean, it's 100% ego. And if, ego on top of individual livelihood, like I was telling you earlier, I don't do this for my livelihood. I do this for the love of it. I do this for the love of the truth. I don't own the truth. It doesn't belong to me. I don't get to sell the truth to people, to innocent people that just want to know. They just want to understand something about something that let's just call it the powers that be, don't want them to know. Okay. If I can help with that, that's all I need, but there are a lot of people that don't feel that way. And that, it's a free country, and it's people have free will, but it is certainly not doing the movement and the progression of knowledge any favors. It is absolutely working in the hands and in the favor of the bad guys that we all know very, very well. And that's how I feel about that.
I mean, speaking the truth can get you, I don't want to say it can get you in trouble, because I just don't care about getting in trouble anymore. But it, we hear these stories about people being silenced for speaking their truth and for exposing things that they know. And I have to admit, there have been some people who have died that I know personally, who I've suspected there was something fishy that went on about that. And people that I was very close with, very good friends, family, who were speaking out just like I'm doing. And I have 2 of my very best friends have died within the past, 5 months, 3 months, 4 months, something like that. And so it makes you wonder, and that's a pretty good way to silence people. I mean, a lot of people, like I was going to say this earlier, whenever I meet people in person that, we weren't really that good of friends because of politics online and stuff, I guess. But we get together and we're all good friends in person. And, I don't know. I just, I guess I probably shouldn't say all this stuff tonight, but I'm just saying it's, I don't know. There's a reason for people to drop out of doing what we do. Okay. And to be silenced because they get scared that that's going to happen to them too. You know what I mean? And that's a pretty good tactic, man. That's a pretty good tactic.
I do. I don't know too many people in, the cryptic field other than yourself. I mean, I've been following that kind of stuff since I was probably 5. But as far as the people themselves, I'm more in the truther, exopolitical, geopolitical, cosmic, spiritual. Those are more my wheelhouse. So I know what goes on there. I'm assuming that some of it has to go on here. And what goes on in my world is just like what's gone on in the real world since the beginning of time. When somebody gets popular or they get a name, the infiltrators come in, and the members of the cabal will offer them something. They'll offer them a bigger platform. They'll offer money. They'll offer them perks. But a lot of times the people, they don't know who these people are, because they come disguised as some business guy, and the agendas are not so cut and dry, where a lot of these podcasters realize that they're sort of skewing the truth a little bit, or they're pushing a sort of kind of agenda a little bit. They think they're still talking about the things they want to talk about most of the time, but they're infiltrated. All right. And almost all of them are that way if they have a big platform. Maybe they're telling all the truth, but maybe they're pushing a little more fear than they should be. Maybe they're pushing a little bit more. You see what I'm saying? There is an angle, and they all have a specific angle that's different from one another. Because from a big picture, that's what the cabal wants to do. And they want to confuse people as much as possible so nobody can feel comfortable about knowing about any one given topic. So they want to give up. They say, you know what, screw it. I don't know the truth and I'll never know because nobody will be honest with me. And they give up and they go sit on the couch and go back into 3D. They go back into the matrix. That's kind of the MO.
It is. It's confusing, and it's like, and that's why even some of the best truth tellers that I know that are very authentic, that get out there and that have tried to tell their stories. I mean, I have some of my teammates that are cryptid field researchers that have just been pummeled. Okay. Like pummeled, they go online and they're like, you know, we actually have the hard evidence of real cryptids and stuff. And like, you know, and I bring some of these people on my shows and stuff, but I don't know. It's like, it's just I don't know. Maybe it's just all part of, I don't know, of the disclosure stuff. Like maybe some people just, the public's not ready for some of the stuff we've been putting out. I don't know. I hate to say that, but no matter what we put out, there's always someone that like comes in to like try to ruin it for us. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what you're talking about. And it's very discouraging because most of the people that I'm bringing on my shows to show their, you know, talk about their evidence and their experiences, they're private people to begin with. And then to get attacked when they do what they put out their stuff, it's like, man, that's a control tactic.
The better their evidence, the more they're going to get attacked. You know, I deal with a lot of whistleblowers and contactees, you know, people that are capable of doing things that most people aren't, you know, a lot of telepathy. You know, right now I'm dealing with a lady who has communication with multiple different off-world groups that are currently in Earth's orbit that are working with the Alliance as we speak. And I vetted her, and I know because she has no possible way of having certain knowledge that she has. You know, she's brand new out of the blue, been in this 6 months, and she knows things that nobody else knows. Anyway, so she's experiencing unbelievable psychic attacks, spiritual attacks, technological attacks, and
man, it's happened to me too.
It's not nice. It's serious.
I feel like people get sent in to like learn what you're doing and to like get all your information and to come on your shows and like be your friend and stuff. And then one day they just flip. Everything flips. And you're public.
That is correct.
And that's happened to me. You know how many times people have been watching my shows. Y'all see who comes and goes on my channel. Y'all can tell. Y'all know. I've had several of those actually. And I'm nothing but nice to these people, Nick.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You do not deserve any nonsense out of these individuals. But there is absolutely no doubt the cabal will stop at nothing. It's their lives. You know, they lose this, they're gone. They know it. You know, certain truths get out, and they lose control. They lose the control that they need to stay alive. You know, we're not talking about all humans here. You know, the humans are the low level of the totem pole. You know, there are groups that are inner Earth groups that are part of the cabal. Some of them are fully human. Some of them are hybrid from a multitude of other species that is out there, and they've been in control for thousands and thousands of years. You know, they're the ones that pull the strings of the politicians. You know, they're the ones that pull the strings of the big names you know of, like Rockefeller and Rothschild, George Soros. You know, those people are not even close to the top of the ladder, even on planet or in planet. You know, there are groups of breakaway civilizations that are inner Earth, and you know, they have a lot of power. Let's just put it that way. You know, we've been battling this since hot and heavy since at least 2012. So at least 14 years, this kind of thing has been going on, and we're making great progress, great strides. You know, you mentioned the meteors. I think
The meteors. We got to cover that.
One of them was in Houston, Ohio, right?
Hold on, I'm gonna pull up a map. Yes, they're all over the place. We've had a bunch. Actually,
Do you want me to?
One of them was over Portage, Ohio, Portage County, where I had my friend Mike was on the show last Thursday, reporting live from there. They said that after this, they had like 8 Bigfoot sightings within a week, and reported sightings. And this meteor came over, and there were like bodies found at a reservoir. All this stuff happened right in almost the exact same location. So yeah, I'm gonna share my screen. We'll show the map. Of
I actually used to live in Portage County, Ohio, for a few years.
No, are you serious?
I did. I lived right on the Portage Lakes, right there outside of Akron.
Oh my gosh, that's where a bunch of dogmen are, Nick, by the way. And this is not the map. I forgot. This is actually the news article. I do have a map too. Astronomers say recent rash of meteor sightings warrants serious investigation. About a dozen, this was released today. About a dozen of the biggest fireballs spotted by hundreds of witnesses across the sky are all coming from the same place, according to trajectory analysis. Astronomers are searching for answers behind the year's unusual wave of loud and fiery meteor sightings. Over 3,000 people witnessed a slowly disintegrating daytime fireball. That's in Western Europe. All right. Well, that's in Western Europe. We're going to look over here in America. Okay. The good old US of A. Let me pull this map up. What do you make of all this? It says that they're all coming from the same place.
They are.
Okay. Where are they coming from?
They're coming from the same place. And notice how they said they're slowly disintegrating, right?
Slowly.
Well, that's because they're not meteors.
What are they?
I'm going to be vague here. Okay. I do not have I don't have authorization to tell exactly what this is. And this is an extremely good source, and it's a brand new piece of information. So I'm going to be vague, and I'm sorry, but I am.
Okay.
Let's just say there are pieces of a regressive off-world space fleet that decided to show up in a part of the solar system that they were not allowed to be in for a nefarious reason. And a number of these ships were destroyed by the good guys. And those are some of the pieces of said ships.
Oh, okay. I'm not saying this has anything to do with anything, but I'm going to pull this picture up right here because I just saw this today. NASA confirms the real shape of interstellar object 3I Atlas after a stunning new Hubble image shocked scientists. Now, Nick, I've actually asked you about 3I Atlas before. We talked about it, and I can't believe that thing's still in the news. Okay, I thought it was long gone, but it's still around apparently. There's thousands, right? Of at least thousands or more of these interstellar ships and stuff all over the solar system. I mean, I want to say you said that last time you were here.
That is correct. At any given time in our direct outer orbit, there are between 500 and 1,000 starships orbiting anywhere from 100 kilometers to several million kilometers outside Earth. And they're from a multitude of different races, benevolent ETs, most of them part of the Galactic Federation of Planets. Yeah, I mean, they're all part of this just like we are. You know, the biggest secret that the churches and the governments have is for people to realize that there are humans everywhere. All right. They're not earthling humans. They're humans that live on other planets just like ours in other places in this quadrant of the galaxy. Okay. We are not unusual. The ETs out there don't look like bugs. They don't look, I mean, there are some that do, don't get me wrong, but the ones we deal with, the ones that are in this part of this quadrant of the galaxy are mostly human, some exactly human, both internally and externally, and some of them have various difference of organic organization. But I mean, we're talking about 100,000 civilizations of different types of humans all over the freaking place. That's the big freaking secret. That's the secret that'll destroy governments, destroy religions. And that's the secret that they're so desperate to keep. They want us to think all off-worlders are strange, interdimensional bugs, and some are, okay? But we know of many dozens that we're working with that are not. And that's what's important. That's what's important, because that's where we came from. That's our ancestors. That's who we are. And by learning about them, we learn about ourselves and our true capabilities that have been hidden from us for thousands of years. Okay? The mind control that's damaged the human genome, that's damaged the human DNA. Do you know that we used to live over 1,000 years? That stuff in the Bible is true. Okay?
Yeah.
1,000 years. But due to all of the poison, the mind control, the manipulation, our physical bodies no longer last, even till 100 a lot of times. And those are the things that need to change.
Well, I don't know. At this rate, I don't mind not being here for 100 years. After 100 years, I'm kind of tired, Nick. I mean, we do have a good question about the meteors that are falling, though, because I was wondering that too. Like, people are claiming. I saw this one guy was claiming he had like a chunk of one. He was trying to sell chunks of it on eBay or something. I don't know.
I'd be extremely surprised if a chunk would actually make it to the ground. I'm not saying it could not, but there won't be many that can. The most of them will be burnt up in the atmosphere.
Wow, that's fantastic. Oh my gosh. Well, if anybody does find a chunk, it's probably a spaceship. Okay, so just be careful. Put on gloves before you touch it, y'all. Okay, that's my advice. Just saying. Oh my gosh. But that's a good question. Thank you, Chicky Blue. Are we even allowed to keep a meteor if it landed in our yard? Well, the National Park Service won't even let you keep an arrowhead, okay, or a bullet from the Civil War field battles and stuff. So,
well, just don't tell anybody, or don't go try to sell it on eBay, and you're fine. I wasn't
gonna say that, Nick. You said out loud what people are thinking, okay? But anyways. Yeah, don't look.
Yeah, lots of crazy stuff going on, boy. I'll tell you what, It
is. I mean, I think it's really wild, though. I mean, I just never know what each day is going to bring when I wake up in the morning. It's always something. There's always something going on. I mean, I'm having a blast talking about it on my shows and stuff, but even I get really tired. I get worn down. I really do, Nick, from the information overload. From just feeling kind of like I'm never hopeless over anything. I always keep hope. Okay, that everything's going to get better. And but kind of what you're saying, what I took from what you said tonight is keep going, right? Like keep going, like keep putting the information out. And I want to encourage the audience, you guys. I know a lot of people here in the chat and people who are listening have their own YouTube channels. And they have their own platforms, their own social media. They speak at town halls, things like I'm going to be having a town hall in person in my community next month, April 25th.
That's so awesome. And, that is so cool.
Yeah, thank you.
I tell you though, because when I'm moving to Charlotte, it's happening soon, and I'll be close to you, and I'll come and we'll put on some kind of a thing and have a good time. We could make a regular occurrence of doing something like that. A lot of interesting stuff to talk about, and there's a lot of people that still are brand new in this kind of thing, this kind of esoteric discussion, and I can assure you, this is the tip of the iceberg. There are billions of people still that don't know anything about the things we talk about. So we will be expected to be a form of teacher going forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's see. Takayasha, what's up? Says, I think this explains why the Bigfoot migrated away from the area just days before that debris fell. That's an interesting point too. This is going back to the Portage, Ohio incident.
There are
Bigfoot sightings.
There are groups. There are ET groups that very much work with Bigfoot on a day-to-day operation. Bigfoots are extremely telepathic. They have connections to more than one group of ET that keeps an eye on them. They frequently have meetings with different ETs. Sometimes they go off planet with them. Bigfoot are highly advanced spiritually, although they're not highly advanced physically, very similar to a whale or a dolphin or an octopus. Their spiritual development is far past what ours is, even though they are not physically developed. They don't build buildings in computers. They don't need to. Their spiritual advancement has transcended the need for that type of life. They're not interested in it. And there's a lot of things that most people simply don't realize about a lot of things, and that's one of them.
Oh yeah. Well, you just got invited to UARI to come out with us. This is my friend David Pardue. He's with Carolina Cryptid Field Research. I hang out with David a lot. Let's just say that. I hang out with David a lot. I met him in UARI National Forest. That is in North Carolina, not too far from where you're going to be living.
Is that right?
You have an invite. Hey, listen, I've got some great pictures that we took of the eye glow. We were surrounded by Bigfoots out there one night, and there was eye glow, self-illuminating eye glow all around us. They had us surrounded.
Really?
And you'll love it out there. So we'll plan on it, Nick.
It's interesting though. The Bigfoots, there are groups that aren't too keen about humans. There are just like humans. There are many humans that are in love with certain native tribes, and some that aren't. And there are groups of Sasquatch that are very much in favor of this great awakening. They're very much in favor, and they're very in tune with the fact that the frequencies on this planet are increasing. The consciousness of a lot of humans is increasing. Our ability for telepathy is increasing, and our ability to communicate with Sasquatch that are willing is increasing. So there are groups of Sasquatch that are very interested in communicating with some of us, but because they've been hunted by rogue government groups and contractors, and there are groups in other places that are not too keen on it. So just kind of know that it's like they're not all just the same. And I know some of the groups that are in Russia, in the Ural Mountains, and some of them are not big fans of humans. But hopefully that'll change. But just understand that it's a vast network of beings just like humans. You would never just say, oh, humans are great. Go walk into their house and say hi. Well, some of them are not great, but this is a process. And as we evolve spiritually, consciously, they are doing the same, even though I believe that they're well ahead of us as far as their spiritual advancement and understanding and empathy and ethics and living a life the way you should live it, rather than destroying everything in your path. They're not happy about that, about how humans are. And it's the same with the true dogmen, the natural dogmen that haven't been altered by 3-letter agencies, that haven't been manipulated and turned into super soldiers by 3-letter agencies. There are natural ones out there that were born and raised in the deep woods and they're also very cognizant of what's going on with people. So,
oh man,
should
yeah,
be interesting.
Nick, there are humans. I mean, there's some humans I don't like either. So I get it. I get it. Some humans suck. But now we're learning that a good percentage of humans are not real humans. So maybe that accounts for a lot of that. Maybe that's maybe
yeah. You know, it's sad, but it is kind of true for sure.
Yeah, Nick, one of the questions the head of my Bigfoot field research team always asked us was, what does it mean to be human? And that goes back to 2011 was the first time he ever posed that question to our team. And today in 2026, that question is, I think about that every day. I literally think about that question every day. And who would have thunk it? I would have never thought that I'd be pondering that question to this day. What does it mean to be human? Because now I don't know. It's almost like it hasn't changed at all, but it's like there's just, I never in a million years thought I'd be running into non-human entities, like humans that aren't really humans, and clones, and having friends that claim to be cloned. Like I have friends that say they're clones. They're actual clones.
No.
Yeah.
No, humans, all clones are deeply programmed to not believe they're clones. I mean, that's the whole point of the clone. That's one of their most deeply rooted programs, is to believe they're the real deal. Now, whether or not something has changed and somehow some of them have learned, I don't know that, but I know that's very unlikely. But nothing's impossible.
I don't know.
Nothing is impossible. But look, we're humans currently. Okay, we weren't always humans, and we won't always be humans. You know, our soul is infinite. We've been a lot of different things. We've been in a lot of different places. This is not our only stop. It's not our first stop. It's not going to be our last stop. And all of the off-world groups that we deal with are very, very familiar with that. See, Earth is one of the only places in this universe that we know of that has complete mind wipe, that has the complete veil of forgetting. Most places, most planets, most beings have memory of, if not more than one, at least one full other life. Most beings remember several other lives that they've had. Okay. Earth is unique in that regard. Earth is one of the few 3D places. And it is also well known that it is the most difficult place for a soul to incarnate. Only the elite come here. Only the special, the souls that want an immense trial by fire will come here. And that is known throughout, at least through this galaxy. So just know that every single person listening to this is, in fact, an elite soul, one that is renowned by others that were not brave enough to take this challenge, to become a human for this particular point in time. Okay. It's very important, and it's a job that we won't realize the ramifications of how important it was until long from now. So just try to look at it in that regard. There are races of human, and in the thousands, that are watching this, that are watching us. They watch our videos. They use our internet. Okay. They're very familiar with who we are, what we do, and our trains of thought. They're aware of our suffering. They're aware of the difficulty that we're going through. And it's almost like we're movie stars to them because of how difficult this is. And they know it. So take that with you, and maybe that'll help. But, I know some of the things I talk about are a little bit hard to believe, and that's okay. Everybody has their own belief structure, ever changing, ever evolving. But, I hope some of it will give you a hand, will help you.
Oh my gosh. There, like I said, there are days where it gets really heavy here. It gets really heavy. even for some of the, some of the happiest of people trying to stay on the sunny side of stuff, it gets heavy. And so it's wonderful to have you come on the show, Nick, and to give us that boost, which is amazing. I feel like we always get like an information download every time you come on. It's like a mega download for the entire audience. Blasted it out all over
thank you so much. And I wish I could stay longer. I've actually got to go jump in the car, go pick up my son, but it's always my pleasure. I enjoy your viewers and you especially, and I'd be happy to pop on whenever you have time.
Oh, thank you, Nick. Well, you come back anytime. Okay. You've always got an open invite. You can come on every week if you wanted. I'd have you every week. You just come on.
Well, thank you.
I'll do a special show just for you. Okay. Or every couple of weeks. Come on.
Well, maybe I'll take you. Maybe we'll do every couple of weeks. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
And in the meantime, you be safe, especially when you're out there chasing dogmen around. I don't like that, but okay. But I gotta go.
I don't chase them.
Bye, guys.
Right,
thank you so much.
Night. Thank you for being here. Okay, we'll see you next time. All right. You stay safe out there. All right, y'all. Man, that was fantastic. I love that so much. Nick is always an interesting guest to have on, isn't he? Oh my gosh. And I do feel like we did get that mega download tonight. I got some downloads, and I hope you guys did too. And I'm so sorry, y'all. I didn't we were in the flow of things, and I didn't thank everybody who gave all the super stickers tonight. So we're going to do that right now. I want to thank Larry Sharp. First of all, thank you for being a member of the Hunt Club for 23 months. That is almost 2 years. That is 2 years, Larry. Thank you so much for being here tonight. You're the best, man. I love you to death. And Nathan Davis, to pushing the envelope. Thank you, Nathan. Yes, we know how to push the envelope. We know how to ruffle feathers pretty good over here. That's one of my favorite things to do. I started appreciating ruffling feathers when Mark Maychek Cryptid was coming on here with me all the time. So rest in peace to Mark Maychek. That's my buddy. And thank you, Nathan. And Angelique, thank you so much. Another great show, Jessica. Thank you so much for your support, Angelique. You're so sweet. And let's see. Also, I wanted to say hey to Barry Littleton. I saw you in here, Barry. And Elliot Barry, thank you so much. Hi, guys. Love your show. We've seen this attempt before where fakers try to discredit the evidence. Remember Doug and Dave in the 90s who were supposedly behind the crop circle phenomenon. It's a never-ending cycle of disinformation and hoaxing and all that kind of stuff. I try not to focus on the hoaxing so much, y'all. Y'all notice that, right? I try to stay on the positive side of things because I don't like giving that stuff too much energy. And Elliot, thank you so much for that super sticker. And absolutely, there's always going to be people doing that, y'all. And also Onto PX. Thank you so much for that super sticker as well. I appreciate y'all support so much. Thank y'all from the bottom of my heart. And I want to thank all my moderators for being here tonight. And to all my channel members, all my Patreon members, y'all are the best. And like I said, I did have a remote viewing target this week, and it's over in my Patreon. We did a show on Barry's channel on the Lake Van Monster. And so all that is in the Patreon. Okay. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. And I don't know, I've got a lot to think about tonight. I really do. And I don't know, I'm gonna have to go back and watch this one again. I bet y'all will too. But y'all please stay safe out there. The information about those meteors, that was new to me. So I still got to process that one too. Apparently we're having Star Wars up there in our sky right now, is what Nick was saying. He couldn't give us the full disclosure on what's going on, but I think I got an idea. They're blowing up Star Wars spaceships up there. So if you get a chunk of it in your yard, holler at me. Okay, I'll bring you on the show. I make jewelry. I wouldn't mind having a chunk of that. Okay, but anyways, y'all have a great night. I will see you guys back here on Saturday, 10 p.m. on The Hunt. It'll be awesome. And so you guys have a great night. And thank you again to Nick Sylvester for being here. Nick did not have anything to promote tonight. Usually I tell y'all, go to his Rumble channel or his YouTube. He's just chilling, y'all. And so we will have Nick Sylvester back. Nick used to be on some TV shows and stuff. Like I said, y'all might recognize him from that. So, y'all have a great night. Thanks for all the support. I love you guys. And I'll see you Saturday. Bye, y'all.